Hello again. Another day closer to the big day. Have you heard the story of the Nativity yet at school? Maybe you're practicing for the Nativity play. Who are you playing in it? I played a shepherd in mine, and I always wanted to be Joseph, but funnily enough, the shepherds are now my favourite characters in the whole story. The first ones to hear about the birth of Jesus, and the ones who hear that wonderful singing of the angels. Can you imagine hearing angels singing? It must be a lovely sound. Today the little bear meets an angel with surprising results. So let's find out what happens, shall we? On December the 11th, Benjamin opened the door and uncovered an angel. The little bear awoke the next night from a strange dream. He saw an angel walking on the path ahead of him. "Where are you going?" asked the little bear. "To Bethlehem," answered the angel. It was then that the little bear noticed the angel only had one wing. How hard it must be for the angel, thought the little bear. With one wing she certainly can't fly. Suddenly he heard a soft voice behind him. "I too only have one wing and want to go to Bethlehem to see the child that will be born. I have heard that this child will heal all." Astounded, the little bear turned toward the voice. "You too," he cried in surprise. At that very moment, the two angels linked arms and cried happily, "How wonderful to have found one another. Now we can fly to Bethlehem together." "I wonder how those angels lost their wings," said Benjamin. "I don't know," said Mother Bear, "but it's nice to know that God gives us friends and loved ones to help us on our journey." I wonder what our Advent calendar pictures and scenes leaves for us today. So let's pop through the window and find out, shall we? Well, yesterday we had the old lady with the dog in our nativity scene. We've had a man serving pizza, we've had a man with sheep and a woman with sheep, a man cutting wood, all sorts of characters, a lady serving drinks, all sorts of people bringing their gifts and talents to God for the birth of baby Jesus. Shall we see who's today's character in this bag? It's a lady with some hens and an egg and eggs. I love eggs. How do you have your eggs? Do you like them fried or scrambled or in an omelette, or maybe even baked in a cake? That's my favourite. Although if it's just eggs, I like them scrambled with a nice bit of pepper and lots of salt in to make them nice and tasty. Also, with eggs, we normally think of Easter, don't we? Chocolate Easter eggs and all the delight that that brings. We don't normally think of eggs at Christmas, but this is about birth. An egg is a baby chicken, and therefore we get to think about the baby Jesus, and she's bringing her eggs to Jesus. Maybe she's going to make him an omelette, or maybe she's going to make Mary and Joseph an omelette, because they might like that, because they might be hungry after their long journey to Bethlehem. Shall we pop her in the nativity? There she goes. We can all bring something to Jesus, can't we? Whether it's a basket full of eggs or simply our love and our attitude. We can all bring the love that we have for one another together, and Jesus is pleased with that, and God loves that we love one another. So let's try and work to make each other's lives a little bit easier today. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for the next character. One of the things that we do a lot in the Phillips household at Christmas is baking. We do a lot of baking. Actually, my wife and daughter do a lot of baking. I do a lot of eating, and it is delicious. I especially like the marzipan on the Christmas cake and the lovely rich Christmas puddings. I do not like mince pies, but I do like it when Charlotte, my daughter, makes Turkish delight, which is by far my favourite. Today's story tells of a family's festive tradition of baking gingerbread biscuits to hang on the Christmas tree, and what happens when their little sister gets involved. This is called Nina's Gingerbread Cakes. I shan't go into the office tomorrow afternoon, Mum announced at supper time. Then we can bake some gingerbread cookies to put on the Christmas tree. I'll make the dough tonight and leave it in the fridge overnight. Hooray, at last, cheered the twins Lucy and Lucas, because they loved rolling and cutting the dough every year. Nina wants to bake too, cried little Antonio, who had just started nursery school. Of course you can help, said Mum. After Lucy and Lucas had finished their homework the next afternoon, everybody set to work. Mum sent them both to wash their hands, and she tied aprons around their waists. Nina too, cried Antonia, and she didn't stop till Mum had tied a towel around her tummy. After that, Nina busily opened the fridge door, took out a thick brown lump of something, carefully stroked the foil in which it was wrapped, and said, "Hello, lovely gingerbread dough. Did you sleep well?" Lucy and Lucas laughed. Mum showed her two older children how to dust the pastry board with flour and then roll the dough out on it. In a flash, Nina dipped into the bag of flour, threw a handful up in the air and shrieked, "Snow, snow, snow!" Lucas and Lucy coughed and said, "No, Nina, stop it." But then the little girl started doodling funny squiggles in the freshly sprinkled base of the cookie. Mum let out a sigh. When they'd finished rolling out the dough and it was ready for cutting, once again, Antonia squeezed between her brothers and sisters with a cry of, "Nina too!" "Oh, Nina, let's have a bit of peace and quiet," said Mum. "Just watch how it's done. We'll hang the stars and the hearts on the Christmas tree so they all have to be evenly cut to the same size. You can't do that yet." Nina nodded, and for a while she watched attentively as Lucy and Lucas pressed the cutter into the soft dough, each shape as close as possible to the next one so that they wouldn't waste any. Then Mum pushed a flat blade under the soft gingerbread cookies and lifted them onto the baking tray that she'd smeared with butter. And so there they lay, in neat rows, waiting to be put in the oven. But while the other three were filling the next tray, Nina used her little forefingers to press holes and dents into some of the stars and hearts. When Mum finally saw her, she yelled, "Nina, that's enough. You don't play around with food. Now go to your doll's kitchen or somewhere else and just leave us in peace to make our cookies." She turned back towards Lucy and Lucas, and she didn't see Antonio snatch a handful of scraps from the table and slip away with them. 2 trays later, Mum suddenly looked up and with an anxious look on her face asked, "Where did Nina go? It's suddenly too quiet." At that moment, Antonio came back through the kitchen door. She was proudly holding the lid of her toy box, and on it lay lots of flat brown pieces of dough. But they were very, very special. "Nina's gingerbread cookies," she announced, and she showed them what she had cut out with her plastic toy knife. "Ship, car, doll, cloud, big fat whale." "Wow, that's super, Nina," cried Lucy in amazement. Lucas said, "I like the big fat whale the best. I want to make some Nina gingerbread cookies too." He reached for some of the stars on the first tray, and before Mum could stop him, he kneaded them into a ball of dough. "Lucy too," cried his twin sister, and she kneaded the hearts together. "Children, children," moaned Mum helplessly. "So what's going to happen to our traditional Christmas tree decorations?" "From now on, our Christmas tree is going to be a lot more fun," said Lucy and Lucas, "because from now on we shall only hang Nina gingerbread cookies on it. And that's exactly what they did. I love that Nina makes her own cakes, her own cookies in different shapes that are not to do with Christmas. I love that she just wants to get involved. There's something special about doing things differently at Christmas, about making our own family traditions and fitting what we do into what works for us. I wonder if you have any traditions in your family. I bet you do. Well, I wish you a good sleep and sweet dreams, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.